Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Lagos. Happy Eid al-Fitr to all our Muslim brothers and sisters. Indeed, the world has changed where worshippers can no longer congregate as they would, and people can show affection and love in physical terms. It is called now the new normal. And that played out vividly today when the President Muhammadu Buhari could not, like he usually does, go out to the Eid praying ground to worship because of the coronavirus disease. Today, the President observed the Salah celebration, performing the 2 Rakat Eid prayers at his residence in Abuja. After the prayer, the President said to Nigerians, "Go back to the farm and grow our food as Nigeria has no money to import."
I hope the rainy season will be bountiful. We'll get a lot of food. I wish the farmers will go and stay in the land so that we can produce what we need sufficient so that we don't have to import. In any case, we don't have any money to import food, so we must produce what we are going to eat. COVID-19 has reduced us. When I say us, both the developed and developing countries to the same level. In fact, we have less casualties than they have. So it is a very frightening development, and I advise Nigerians to be very careful to take the advice from the Ministry of Health. The Minister of Health has been doing very well, speaking and educating people generally. So Nigerians, we should be very careful.
Those are the words of the president there. Well, the Nigerian federal government has warned that it is not the right time to congregate just yet. But it appears the governors of some states have taken the initiative to ease the rule in gathering publicly. States like Kano, Bauchi, and Cross River State have taken that decision. Nigeria is battling to curb the spread of the coronavirus of COVID-19. Take a look at a snapshot of Nigeria's case. Over 200 deaths, 221 exactly, and about 4 to 4,458 samples tested so far today, and Nigeria has over 7,500 cases that is on our hand. The people that have been discharged are now over 2,000. Let's get some update from the Minister of Health on how we're doing. You heard that the president mentioned his name. Dr. Osage Hanire joins us from our Abuja studio. Honorable Minister, many thanks for joining us and coming on the program tonight to speak to us. It's Salah Day and it's Sunday also. With some of the images you have seen so far in the media of how people congregated, are you satisfied with the manner in which people have conducted themselves?
Well, to some extent, yes. By and large, more people still need to comply and to understand the importance and urgency of not crowding up. Crowding up increases the risk of disease transmission. We have always said that this is one of the most easily transmitted viruses there's ever been. This is a highly contagious virus, and it is important to continue spreading the message that prevention is by far the best way to approach this disease, and to wash our hands regularly, avoid crowding, use sanitizers, and above all, more importantly, use a mask.
So from what you have seen today, Honorable Minister, how do you think people fared in terms of conducting themselves, social distancing and all of that, based on the guidelines that you gave?
Well, from what we have seen, I haven't seen much. I haven't seen everything or what went on in all parts of the country. But I think there is an increasing consciousness, an increasing awareness of the importance and urgency of what we call the non-pharmaceutical interventions, the measures that do not necessarily have to do with taking medicines and involve us just being able to keep ourselves safe, protecting each other, one protecting the other, not coughing or sneezing into open space, and behaving in a generally more hygienic way than before, particularly even when we go to places where there's likely to be crowd, like going to the market. We should avoid distance. We should keep distancing as a very important aspect of preventive measures.
Every day we are seeing increasing numbers of cases in Nigeria. Anything to worry about in terms of the cases that we are seeing that is growing?
Yes, anytime you see the figures go up, we have concerns. We are not totally surprised, but we have concerns about it because we look at the capacity of the health system to cope. You might see that in other countries, the figures are rising more dramatically and more frighteningly. In our country, it's not yet like that. We are hoping and praying it doesn't get that way. But a good measure of it does not only depend on government, does not only depend on the Ministry of Health. It depends on all of us, on all citizens, on every one of us, to know that there is no medicine to cure it, there is no vaccine to prevent it. We need to be able to take measures that will help us keep ourselves safe. And these horrifying figures that we see in Europe, that they do not come up in our country.
From what we're saying, give us an information, since you mentioned about the issue of cure and treatment. How far with the efforts being made in that regard?
Well, internationally, there are a lot of initiatives going on to find a cure. But you know that this is a virus, and from medicine, those of us who study medicines, we know that viruses generally are going to be taken care of by the antibodies that your body develops against the virus. And the younger and stronger, more able-bodied ones develop these antibodies rapidly and quickly, and that's why they rarely fall sick or show evil symptoms. But those who have underlying ailments, those who have comorbidities, as we call it, and those, particularly those who have hypertension and diabetes, obesity, they will be more susceptible. So the treatment, talking about medicines, drugs, there is none that is really yet approved. People have tried chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, and various antibiotics, and nowadays there's a trial of remdesivir and remdesivir. There's an antiretroviral drug, which are all still being tried. We are taking part in a solidarity trial, which is being organized by the World Health Organization, but we do not yet have an answer to the cure. And we also do not yet have a vaccine. Various groups are working on vaccines, but the general belief is that we cannot get one within the next 18 months.
So for the Nigeria trials, the trials that are being conducted here in Nigeria, Lagos State says that it will begin chloroquine trials. And we've heard also that NAFDAC also mentioned that they will begin trials on medications. Are we close to discovering anything, any possibility of us getting closer into discovery of anything so far?
Not yet. About 5 states treatment centers are participating in this WHO-sponsored treatment program, which they are trying chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, and the antibiotic azithromycin. But we do not have definitive answers. Although the first publications that we are seeing, even from highly respected journals, medical journals, are indicating that even these medicines we are trying out now actually have not been shown to work in other tests that have been done. So we are not yet near finding an answer.
So because, let me go back to the events of today and some of the things that we've seen in churches and in other worshippers today, and generally how people have conducted themselves. In your last briefing at the PTF, the PTF warned about the fact that it might not be the right time to congregate publicly, and what some of the governors are doing. Are you concerned about what could be a possible backlash of some of the decisions, especially when you see people who are close and it does look like social distancing rule is thrown into the wind?
Well, we are concerned about that. The studies, various studies are going on about the transmissibility of the coronavirus. It's believed that if people cough or sneeze, they spew the droplets into the air, which can be inhaled by any others who can now become infected. But other studies going on now show that even if someone shouts or even speaks, they also spew out aerosols and droplets, which can also be infectious. So the question of distancing it gains more meaning when you look at that kind of risk that is normally a day-to-day life. So the taking that injunction seriously becomes more and more important to keep socially apart, particularly if you are in an environment where you do not have the opportunity of being very well separated from others. So in those circumstances, the mask comes in very useful. It helps you to create a barrier between you and the other person. So you create a sort of mutual protection. You protect the other person and that person protects you by wearing a mask so that they cannot spew any kind of a droplets or aerosol while speaking to you.
Honorable Minister, have we peaked just yet in terms of flattening the curve now? Have we gotten to that point on the graph that you would say that we've peaked?
No, I don't think so. We have not peaked yet. There are areas where the virus seems to be spreading more and where the familiarity with how to handle infectious diseases is not so well spread out. We sent a very powerful task team to some states to go and help to build up systems there. And we are sure that with the systems being built up, the infection prevention and disease protocols will be better established and managed. And the non-pharmaceutical interventions we are talking about now, the diagnostic capacity, the tracing and tracking capacity, isolation capacity will all improve and help us to be able to at least control the rate of growth, or rather the rate of spread. But I don't think we are doing so badly, but we're not doing as well as we would like. We would like to see a flat curve, but we have not yet reached the peak, and we are not yet at a level where we can say, yes, we're able to be comfortable. No, we are not yet there at all.
Honorable Minister, a lot of Nigerians, a lot of people, and sundry, are not quite happy with the communication or the explanation given by the federal government and perhaps maybe the PTF on the whereabouts of the Chinese doctors, because in fact some of the lawmakers are also have voiced out, as well as so many Nigerians, about some of the explanations that are being given. So what can you tell us now? Because we understand that they've exceeded their stay in Nigeria. Why are they still in the country? Are they getting any special treatment? What makes them special?
Well, this is a question for the Minister of Interior, because how long they are here depends on the kind of visa they were given. But I think that their staff, they work for the company, as we all know, CCCC, and that's a company that's been here for I think 39 years or so, as they told me the last time. And if they are staff of that company, I believe they do have their regulations and the way they rotate their staff. I cannot say anything about it because I'm not in charge of that area. But the Minister of Interior did say that they are here, that they have visas, and that their visas were sponsored by the company. So that's all I can say about that.
As we know that you received them on the day, the 15 of them who came into the country, the understanding that we have and the information is that they have exceeded. There's still a lot of people are not, Nigerians are not happy with the conditions surrounding their stay. If they came at that time during the lockdown where there are restrictions of international flight, a lot of people are asking the question, couldn't they have gone back in the same manner they came?
Well, first of all, let me correct something. The company brought us 16 tons of medical supplies, 16 tons, at a time when we were looking at the threat of the coronavirus coming onto our country, at a time when I needed supplies to be able to protect our frontline health workers. We needed gowns, masks, we needed reagents, we needed so many things. So we're very happy for the 16 tons. And let me correct the fact that it is these 16 tons that came from China that I went to receive at the airport. And these gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, were in the same aircraft. So I also just welcomed them and thanked them for coming. But it was the 16 tons of goods that benefited the health system that I went in for. Now, as for the rest of it, again, it is a question for the Ministry of Interior. The kind of visas they had, when they should have come, when they should have left, those are not questions that that I was involved in. We were involved in making their questions for the Ministry of Interior, not the Ministry of Health.
So, in that sense, if the information about their the expiration of their stay in Nigeria is anything to go by, are you not worried about a possible overstaying in the country?
The Ministry of Internal Affairs and Immigration will have to take care of that.
Let me get your view on this. A lot of people, some people actually, predicted the worst case scenario for Nigeria before we had our index case about how people are going to die, and when the case gets into Nigeria, we have just about over 200 deaths so far, sadly so. What can you tell us about the situation and perhaps the manner of handling in the country compared to what we have seen? You heard the president say in some other countries where a lot of people have died.
Yes, we are always very sad when we lose anyone. As a doctor of many years, one of the things we don't like to see is losing a patient. So we are very saddened by the loss of patients, and we do everything we can to make sure that our figures, fatalities do not go up. And that is why we prepare. We also protect our healthcare workers to make sure that they themselves don't become victims. And in treating those who are infected, we do everything we can, try all the medicines there. We even consider the proposals that are coming from traditional practitioners to see if there's any truth, any value in what they bring, looking for ways of reducing the fatality rates. And we are, well, glad and thankful that we are not having the same figures as we have in Europe. But it's a mistake for anyone to think we shall now rest on our oars. We are not going to rest on our oars. We still want to reduce or even eliminate fatalities from COVID-19 and do everything we can. We study a lot. We listen to what goes on in other countries. We take advice from anyone who can give it to us. We have listened to advice from the South Koreans, we have listened to advice from the Chinese. Even the Chinese, we had a teleconference with them in which we asked them questions, how they handle this case in their country. We've listened to the Americans, they've been to us and also given us tips. We've listened to the British. So we listen for information and whatever we can learn. The thing about the scientist is that he never thinks he knows everything. He never thinks he knows enough. He's always hungry for knowledge, so we are hungry for knowledge. And anybody who thinks he knows everything and doesn't need to know anymore is not a scientist.
Honorable Minister, stay with us. We'll take a break. We'll come and conclude the conversation after the break. But before we go on the break, Did You See That segment? Did you see the moment Governor Ayade of Cross River State waived taxes for many classes of payers in the state? But in some realization, the governor wept.
I never knew that 5 years into office as governor, I would still find somebody who could live in a thatch house in Cross River State. I almost cried because I knew how prepared I was, but it didn't end the way I had dreamt for the state. And I just think that somewhere God will just help me, because I really wish I could really help. I really wish I could help.
Governor burst into tears as he decried the tax burden on low-income earners in the state. The governor went on to inaugurate an anti-tax agency designed to abolish payment of taxes by low-income earners. Up next on the program, some solution is in the works. Nigeria is looking for treatment and cure to coronavirus. Our concluding moments with the health minister after this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Don't forget to let us know what your views are on the issues we are discussing tonight on the program. The health minister, Dr. Saige Hanier, has been speaking to us on these handles that you can see on the screen right there. Write to us by email. politicstoday@channelstv.com is our email. Let's get back to the conversation with Dr. Hanire, the Minister of Health. Just in the next few minutes that we have with you, Honorable Minister, just a few questions that we have left for you. And we understand that NAFDAC has not gotten the Madagascar. The president said that it was going to, the appropriate quarters are going to get it and test it and try and see whatever how it works. But NAFDAC says that they do not have the Madagascar herbal medication that has been sent to us. What is the state of things over that Madagascar medication?
Yes, the Madagascar, let us say, herbs, for want of another word, are supposed to be handed over to the Ministry of Health at the next working day. That's when we'll pick it up, and then we'll send to our research institutes. First, of course, to NAFDAC and also to the Nigeria Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development to look into it and tell us what it is. We have heard from them and from other sources that the herbs are actually quite similar to the Artemata annua, which we here also have grown with Niprid. This seems to be familiar with, and they will compare both of them and see what the components are and how useful they can be for the purpose for which they are intended.
In one of your briefings, you said that local, herbal, or traditional or alternative experts have not yet submitted, that you've just heard on the media that they are producing or they are developing. What can you tell us? Has any one of them come forward with any of their research materials in the area of alternative medications or traditional medications?
Oh, yes. I have received quite a few proposals from traditional practitioners, people who say that they have the remedy, and in fact, they have sent me samples, and the samples were sent to the research institutes, and we are looking for the results that come out of examining them. NAFDAC will test that they are fit for human consumption and that they do not have toxic effect. Then other research institutes will now check for the efficacy, how it works, what works in it, and what dosage is good. And those are things that will take a bit of time. But we have to rely, even as the president himself said, on our scientific organizations to show us the way forward.
Honorable Minister, just before you go, this is perhaps going to be our last question tonight. Are you happy with the manner and the rate of testing in Nigeria? The target is 2 million tests. That's what we got from the federal government that you're planning to. But now you've gotten just way over 44,000 compared to a country like South Africa that has had over 500,000 tests since they had their index case.
Yes, we would like to do more. We would like to be able to test more generously, but a lot of it depends also on getting the reagents. And the reagents are, because of very high demand, global demand, and the very competitive nature of obtaining these reagents, we do not at the moment have as many reagents as we would like. But we hope that in the next coming weeks, we can get more of these reagents, and above all, we'll be able to start using our gene expert machines. Those are the PCR machines we use for the tuberculosis, molecular diagnostic test for tuberculosis, which we can convert to test for coronavirus. We're expecting over 100,000 cartridges, which will help us to ramp up the testing rate. So I think that within the next couple of weeks, when these ones start coming in, we shall be able to ramp up the testing.
Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ehanire, thank you so much for your time tonight on the program.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and Eid el-Mubarak to all Nigerian citizens.
Thank you so much, Minister. Now, state governors, as head of their units, are taking initiatives to curtailing the spread of the coronavirus. As some states battle the health emergency, some of them also cannot sleep well at night because of the fear of bandits or insurgents or community clashes. One of the states most hit by the insurgency war is Adamawa State in the northeast region of the country. The state has had 2 casualties so far in the war against COVID-19, but several attacks on some communities have left several people dead. Let's speak with the governor of Adamawa State, Governor Hamadu Fintiri. He joins us live from Yola. It's good to see you. Happy Eid al-Fitr to you, Governor Fintiri. Happy Eid al-Fitr to you, and thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Shay. Eid Mubarak.
Thank you. Let's speak on the issue. Let's speak on the issues of security that you're presently facing in the midst of coronavirus war in your state. Issues of the clashes that we see. You recently just lifted the curfew in some part of the local government in your state. As you speak, how overwhelming is it for you?
Yeah, of course, it's part of the leadership that we have sworn to preside over our people, that from time to time there will be such unfortunate incidences of insecurity and clashes between communities, clashes between farmer herders, and above all the insurgents in the northern part of the state. But the unfortunate incidents is what happened precisely last week, Friday, at Timno, that a mere argument between 2 Okada riders led to the clash among communities that have been living for ages together, that led to a lot of death, burning of properties, and displacement of the entire community. But at the mix of it, I had to move in with the security commanders and everybody to ensure that we stem it before it escalated to unproportionate level. And glory be to God, we're able to stem it and declared curfew. And today, I will tell you that there's calm and there's peace in the community. But that is not to say the security agencies have not been carrying out their investigation. They've not been doing a lot of job to see that this does not come back. And as government, we have decided to have a panel of inquiry to be presided over by a judge of a high court, so that we can unravel the reason behind it and then forestalling it in the future. And also it will serve as a deterrent to other communities that will want to go into community clashes. This is how far my government have done, and I think that is the purposeful leadership that we've been providing.
I know it's a tough one in the sense that you're battling with the issues of communal clashes, insurgency, and the COVID war. A lot of people, experts have said that, in fact, in areas that you have declared curfew, how that has impacted on the economy of the state. There are research that have come out estimating that over 400,000 of the majority of your people are living below the poverty line. Is this a major problem for you, and how do you think you can resolve this issue?
I think that was a measure of a research that was carried in the last administration. We inherited a government that was not paying salary. We inherited a government that was diverting local government subvention. Of course, out of all this, you should expect poverty at the grassroots. But that is not the same story today in Adamawa, where we have given the autonomy to the local government. We declared free and compulsory education at all primary and secondary school, and that has improved the spending and the economic level of the state. And we've created a lot of wealth since we came 1 year ago. And I think Adamawa is growing, and we are taking her to the promised land.
So would you say that you have done well since you assumed office for the people of Adamawa State?
Of course, relatively very well. I can rate myself above board because we've carried our people and we've been doing very well. So far, so good.
Are you worried, for example, there was a particular festival which ended, was it today or yesterday, which a lot of people are worried that there were no adherence to the rule of social distancing in the midst of the coronavirus?
Of course, it's very difficult to adhere to the management guideline of the coronavirus in the entire country. But so far, I think people are involved in the management themselves. To some extent, they wear the masks, they maintain social distance, they wash their hands, they sanitize. I think they are doing very well because they are not used to the lifestyle, and I think what they are doing very well, and that is why the level of the pandemic is very low, particularly here in Adamawa State. We're able to have about 800 cases, 320 were tested, and out of the 320, we had only 27 cases, out of which we have also discharged about 18. So I think, to me, the way we are managing it and the way the people are adhering to the management guideline is okay and is helping the spread of the virus here in my state, because that's the only place I can talk of.
The case of Almajiri children, what have you put in place? Because the northern governors agreed that they are going to end that system of government. But in that case, where do these children turn to if you take them out of the street? A lot of them, we understand, are still on the street of Adamawa State.
What we are having in Adamawa is not the problem of the Almajiri as out-of-school children. We also have children that were displaced in their various community because of the tripartite security problem, particularly from the farmer herders clashes, the community clashes, the insurgents in the northern part of the country. And we're able to take their statistic, which amounted to over 100,000 out-of-school children, out of which through the BESDA program, we're able to enroll over 50,000. And our intention was to enroll the 100,000 by the end of the year. Then suddenly the northern governor decided to bring an end to the Almajiri, even though we had the guideline to bring an end to the Almajiri on our own by September next year. But since it was the decisions of the northern governors to ensure that with the pandemic, we bring an end to it. So we have keyed into the Northern Governors Program of ending the Almajiri, which we have identified 3,220 something or so of the Almajiri in my state, out of which 1,800 of them are our citizens, indigenous of Adamawa, but doing Almajiri in different parts of the local government. And out of the 1,000, out of the balance of the 1,800 out of the 3,200, we're able to repatriate about 400 of them back to their states of origin. And we will continue to do that and ensure that their safety is also maintained back to their states of origin.
Governor Hamadu Fintiri, the governor of Adamawa State, thank you so much indeed for talking to us tonight. And I wish you the very best in this very difficult time.
Thank you, Shay.
Let's speak more on these issues of security in the midst of coronavirus war. Let's turn to our Abuja studio, where Senator Ali Ndume is there. He's the chairman, Senate Committee on the Army. He's from Borno State. And we're going to get his views on some of these issues as it affects the northern region of the country and the nation at large. Many thanks for joining us tonight, Senator Ali Ndume.
Well, thank you very much.
Senator, you are the chair of the committee in charge of the Army. Just a few days ago, a colleague of yours on the floor of the Senate said there must be efforts to extend the help in fighting insurgents extended to Sokoto State. Are things getting worse in terms of banditry, insurgency, and violent attacks that we're seeing in some part of the northern region of the country?
Well, there are two things you're talking about at the same time. One is the issue of insurgency in the northeast, and the other, of course, is the new resurgence of banditry in the northwest that affects Sokoto, Zamfara, and Katsina, and it has spread down to Niger. And of course, part of Kaduna too is affected by this criminality of bandits. And the activities of those bandits have been intensified, leading to mass exodus of people from Katsina, Sokoto, and the like to neighboring countries of Niger. And Niger too are trying to contain the bandits, so they try to protect their border, and people run for safety in those areas, therefore increasing the number of internally displaced persons or refugees in Cameroon, in Niger now, to statistically about 60,000. That is what the United Nations for Refugees are talking about. And therefore, there is that increase in banditry in that region. Back to Northeast, of course, the situation there is improving in the sense that there is a new determination by the Nigerian Armed Forces, consisting of Army and Air Force and some other security agencies. Efforts have been intensified, and as you might be aware, the Chief of Army Staff have relocated completely now to Borno State, and he has been there for about 2 months now. In fact, right now, the Chief of Army Staff is in Maiduguri supervising and commanding the troops. That changed the game completely and give us hope. Now we only don't, we see light at the end of the tunnel, despite the issue, the pandemic that hampers the success. I believe, had it been, it's not for the pandemics, a reasonable progress would have been made, more than what we have on ground. But with the Chief of Army Staff relocating completely to Borno, and in my discussion with him, he's saying he's staying there until he gets this issue of insurgency in the Northeast finished. And I'm very hopeful now. The Army have new equipment deployed. The Nigerian Air Force is doing the same. In fact, recently also they have deployed some and trained some special forces in order to beef off the number and
the capacity of those on ground. Unfortunately, the armed forces have too many things in their hands. Like they have the issue of banditry now in Northeast, resurfacing. The president have given directive for them to do something. There is the communal clashes that is happening in the North Central and even issues of banditry. These things are so many, and the number of soldiers that we have on ground, it's not very adequate to take care of this, but they are doing their best, and hopefully with the increase in the capacity in terms of equipment, we hope that this thing will come to an end.
Senator, let's take a breather. When we come back, it's a tale of two wars in some parts of the country as a battle COVID-19 and insurgency and some banditry. We'll speak further tonight with the chairman, Senate Committee on the Army. What about funding of the Army? He will tell us more on some of these issues after the break. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get back, apologies, to our conversation with Senator Ali Ndume. He is the chair of the Senate Committee on the Army. We're bringing him out on a day when they're celebrating Salah. But thank you sincerely, Senator, for coming. And Eid Mubarak to you. And thank you so much for coming again. Let's get back to the conversation. So, what about funding of the Army in the 2020 budget and also the 2019 budget? Would you say there is an optimal performance of the budget in the funding of the Nigerian Army?
No, that is one of the major challenges that the Nigerian Armed Forces, not only the Nigerian Army, you talk about Army, Air Force, and Navy, have a serious challenge of funding. In the 2019 budget, the performance was decimal. And I can tell you, even in the 2020, compounded by the challenges of the COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic, have all challenged our financial capacity. That has also affected the budget performance. For now, I think the only thing they've been able to keep up to as the first quarter of the 2020 finish is the personal and recurrent expenditure. Even that one, we have some challenges. But so far now, we have been talking to the Ministry of Finance because we discovered that the capital releases to the Army and Armed Forces have not been effected for this 2020. And I think Senator, that is because of the financial challenges we have. But we're in a situation of war.
Is that situation affecting the success or the prosecution of the war against insurgency?
Of course, because the Army is just scavenging around for finance to keep their operations going. Honestly, they are facing big financial challenges. And this is not something that is intentional, but because the whole country is affected by the pandemic that affected the price of oil worldwide, and that is a major challenge that we have. But the government, accordingly, is determined, and they promise that they will do everything to support the Army to succeed, because the primary purpose of government is security and welfare of its citizens.
But Senator,
we're waiting.
Senator, you mentioned earlier that the military have gotten some new equipment. I'm aware that they were requesting for helicopters, that they needed helicopters. Have they gotten those helicopters?
The Air Force have gotten new helicopters. You are aware that late last year or early this year, I think, the President commissioned about 3 or 4 of them, and more are coming in and are still arriving. The Nigerian Army, on its part, have gotten many of their armored tanks and heavy-duty equipments that they require from China. They have taken delivery of them, and they have been deployed to the theater. And so there is improvement, actually, and they are expecting the the order that will be placed from the 1 billion that was taken out from the external reserve last year, some of the equipments ordered have started arriving and they are being deployed. But the challenge that they have now is the operational funds. It's not only having the equipment, but you must have the ammunition. You must have other consumables or those that are deployed, ammunition, tires, and you know, fueling equipment that has, you know, normally supplies, so to say, not the big type of equipment.
Right.
Even with those, you know, they have to get the supplies that will back the equipment in order for them to be effectively operational.
So you spoke about the fact that the Chief of Army Staff had relocated to the theater of the war in Maiduguri. But there was a video that surfaced online where we saw the Chadian president and the Chadian troops talking about the fact that they've chased out Boko Haram insurgents out of their territory. Shortly after then, we heard that the Chief of Army Staff said he was going to relocate to the theater of war. Was that a coincidence, or was that prompted by the decision of the Chadian president and the troops there?
Well, I don't think I'm in the position to answer that, but all I know is that the Chief of Army Staff, because this issue of insurgency have been lingering, and we from the political side and representing the people from that region particularly have been crying out to the Nigerian army to do something, and they should do more. I have been on this TV station several times urging the Nigerian army to do more and that they can do more. So now they are doing more. I think we should commend them and we should encourage them. They are doing well, and we hope that this vigor will continue, that is, in order to bring the war to an end. And I see it coming to an end with the new determination and the new support from everybody. And I just want to use this opportunity to call on the other side, that is the civilians, to also cooperate with the military, provide them necessary information to get this war to an end. Instead, now the game has changed. The hunter is now being hunted. In those days, or even recently, or even at the beginning of the year, you hear Boko Haram daring the Nigerian army, going to even their formations to attack them. It is now reversed. The army are now looking out or chasing Boko Haram, and of course they face resistance and even casualties in the process.
All right.
But we are hopeful that, that it will come to an end.
All right, Senator, quickly, I have about 2 questions because we have a few minutes to the end of the program. And the first question is the trouble of battling COVID-19 and insurgency in areas where you come from, like Borno State and in some parts of the northern region of the country. Are you worried about the situation and the plight of your people, some of them who are referred to as living very much below the poverty line?
Honestly, that is one big area. The humanitarian crisis that we are facing, even before now, was serious. And now the pandemic issue have compounded the problem. Initially, it was the issue of security challenges that we are facing from the insurgents. But now with the pandemic of COVID-19, the situation have gotten worse. It is the palliative are not getting to the people, and even if the palliative gets to the state, it's difficult. It's normally very challenging to move it to the various locations where people are in their need. So the humanitarian crisis in Borno particularly is very serious. But thank God, everybody is trying to contribute and to see to it that the suffering of the people is minimized. The state government is doing all it can. The Northeast Development Commission, NEMA recently, the humanitarian ministry also, we are hearing that they are making effort to do that. But we hope that we'll see more of this humanitarian assistance going to the Northeast. and particularly Borno.
Senator, we have less than, I've been told that we have less than 60 seconds to the end of the program. But this is very important because a lot of people, experts and leaders of thought have warned about the situation of Almajiri children on the streets of northern Nigeria. With what we have on our hands, that's a worry. That's a big concern, isn't it, for you? Is it being handled well?
Not at all. Honestly, the way the Almajiri issue is being handled is, I don't support it. These are Nigerians protected by the Constitution. They have the right. These are innocent people that found themselves coming from a poor background. I think the state government should have managed the situation better. As the governor, I had governor of Adamawa, for example, saying that they have acknowledged that most of the Almajiris are from their state. I think there is this Almajiri system on ground that the government is supposed to improve on it, not repatriating people from state to state against their will. I don't, even though the states are saying that they are ready to receive them, but here we're saying that there should be no movement between states. And there you are packing these innocent Almajiris from one point to the other. I was thinking that they could use the palliative to take care of the Almajiris. The palliative that the government is giving out should have been directed to the Almajiris, put them in one place, put them through tests, and give them the necessary support they need. But running away from responsibility doesn't solve the problem.
Senator Ali Ndume, Senator from Borno State and the chair of the Senate Committee on the Army, thank you indeed for coming tonight on the program. And let me allow you to enjoy the rest of your celebration of Salah. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
But that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. Do enjoy the rest of your holiday.